Good evening, everyone. I wanted to make a video to just reflect on some of my thoughts on the inflation crisis that's plaguing our country. And there's not going to be any screen shares, there's not going to be any charts to analyze. This is just going to be just me talking. So, recently I heard a kind of cynical theory from a friend of mine that I kind of wrote off at first, but after thinking about it deeper, I really think the theory actually has some merit. So, if all of us that have been paying attention notice, inflation really ramped up after the COVID lockdown started easing up. And it's kind of an odd coincidence that gas prices, inflation, all these things started kicking in. I mean, we know a lot of the immediate causes of them: bad government policy, not drilling enough for oil, not producing enough domestic energy, despite whatever spin they try to put on it. Those are the facts. But there's another angle to this. We've been dealing with this thing called the Great Resignation over the past year. And the more I thought about what my friend said, the more I thought that the theory had merit because I know firsthand the management class of our country that is still predominantly in charge at mid level and upper level management of the majority of our corporations can't stand when workers have more power or more leverage than they feel that they deserve. And I can tell you firsthand, like, I know how management thinks. It's funny because, like, you can totally disagree and resent the way someone thinks, but you can kind of understand how they think because you've been around them enough to where you can not only understand, but you can predict what they're going to think and how they're going to think in the future. I know for one thing, and there is going to come a day that this changes because the baby boomer generation that's still in a lot of positions of power in corporate America, they're not going to be in charge forever. There's going to come a day, whether they like it or not, that these lazy millennials and Gen Z are going to end up running things. I mean, it's the basic circle of life, trajectory of the world, so to speak. And but this the older generation that still has the power over the corporations and is in the main management, upper mid-level upper management class all the way to the CEOs. They, for whatever reason, they cannot stand the working from home, and I know this. And I know it firsthand because before COVID, I dealt with it in my job for years. Like, my job, there were times that it felt like a prison. They wanted you in that office 50 hours a week. I basically come from an investment banker culture. And for some, it's even a lot harsher than that. Like, you can work up to 100 hours a week. I mean, literally just grind it out with no life. And that's a high burnout rate and something like that. But I'm not going to get too much into my background and things like that. One day I'll be able to, but not now. But I know the mentality because I've dealt with it for the bulk of my career. And they cannot stand the work from home. They were forced to let it go on because of the pandemic. But they wanted to, a lot of companies wanted to reverse it immediately. They begrudgingly allowed it to happen. It ended up going on in a lot of companies for well over a year, in some cases, a year and a half. And then once they got the metrics on vaccinations, that vaccinations were like over 50%, which was a misleading metric to begin with, because if you have 330 million people in this country and it shows that 100 and something million doses of a vaccine were given out, a lot of the vaccines had two doses. Now we have multiple boosters for the vaccines. So it was very misleading. Like, and this happened at my company. It was very misleading to say, okay, 50% of the country's been vaccinated. That means we can come back to the office on a 50% basis. But they were that eager to have people back in an office so they can have direct control and oversight to micromanage the work of the employee, not at all trusting after, mind you, an entire year where employee productivity was touted how well we did during the pandemic. But yet, for whatever reason, they want that office culture. They want that direct oversight of work, whatever it is, generational thing. Which that's what I think it is, because the prior generation, and not to bash the prior generation, because in a lot of ways, older generations have a lot of wisdom and value that younger generations don't. But That one is one that I just profoundly disagree with. I've always seen, ever since like the first day I started working an office job, like I've never seen, once you have an internet connection and once you can connect remotely to your company portal, you can do your job from home. Like I've never understood the need to be in an office. And even now, like where I work, going back to the office, it just makes no sense. There's absolutely no reason, because we're still not at like 100% every day. We're on a rotation. So there's absolutely no need to be there. That's rarely, I mean, here in the last month or so, I've had a couple of physical meetings, but everything can be done over Zoom, everything can be done remotely. So I've kind of gone off on a tangent here, but the moral of the story is back to the theory that my friend said. So it's funny because if you think about how inflation really started ramping up and how the Fed has raised interest rates, I truly believe, not to be cynical, but and it's, I don't know whether this channel, or I don't know whether this video will ever see the light of day on this channel. I'm going to keep it unlisted for now. Maybe one day I'll post it, because this is kind of an opinion rant. But it's ironic how, like I've said, the inflation is primarily driven by energy. So I truly, in my opinion, do not believe that it is going to be fixed by the Fed raising interest rates. All it's going to do is exacerbate the problem, and it's going to slow the economy down to the point that all of this 11 million job openings and worker leverage dries up. And if you think about it, it makes sense. The management class wants that to go away because, for one thing, okay, so they're forced to raise their prices. I mean, which, I mean, we're a capitalist society, and a lot of us that watch this channel and people that do the same thing I do, we're entrepreneurial people. We understand, like, if your costs go up, you have to raise your costs. But some people think that, you have like a even higher profit margin, because then if you, when there's inflation, and then you can raise your price up even higher, and then you see all these like doom and gloom reports that come out of 9.1%, to the point that sometimes I kind of wish that the media would shut up about it, because it just gives businesses more leeway to say, oh, 9.1%, oh, we can raise the price again. Not saying they do that, but I really feel that I hate this, and it's a very powerless feeling at the same time, because so many people that decided to pursue their passions and their dreams, and see, I took my glasses off a minute ago, because see, when I get mad, I do the opposite of not being able to see straight. I see better when I'm mad. So I'm getting really passionate about this on this rant here. But businesses, they're eventually, my biggest fear is that everybody that has been able to pursue their hopes and dreams and aspirations over the last 2 years because of COVID, and been able to reflect on their life and where they are and what they really want out of life, I feel we're about to reverse from that, where the management class is about to get control back, and that's what they want. Because I'm starting to hear people say, people that quit work in 2021, they're saying they're going to have to go back to work, because right now they're not really making it. They're in like survival mode. They're not saving like they used to. And with the way the economy is going, they're going to be forced back to work. And here's the thing, like, I'm by no means am I bashing work, but a lot of jobs suck. And we as human beings, we have high potential as humans. We may not realize it, just what we see on our daily in our daily experience, but we really do as human beings have high potential. And our potential is much further beyond a desk and a keyboard every day, and being micromanaged and going in and doing the same thing. And we truly want to pursue our passions as human beings. And for to have a taste of something better, and to have it taken away, and feeling completely powerless, is just one of the worst feelings in the world. And it's just really unfortunate that I feel like, with all of this that's going on, the management class is going to end up getting exactly what they want, which is control. They want that control back. They want this great resignation to go out the window, and they want a great tightening of the reins, tightening of control again. And it's really unfortunate, but I would say the silver lining to all of this, whether this happens in the near future or the far out future, there's going to come a day that the generation that's in charge no longer is in charge. And the generation that knows and totally has faith and believes that jobs can be done remotely will be in charge one day. So whether they like it or not, the in office, going into an office and being forced to be micromanaged, and your supervisor having a direct line of sight to you and your work and all that, those days will come to an end one way or the other. And that's the reassurance and the silver lining at the end of all of this. So if I do post this, and anyone that watches this, if you enjoyed that, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and keep an eye out for my next videos. Thanks so much.